My name is Jesse McWaters. I work with the World Economic Forum. We're running an initiative bringing fintech innovators and large financial incumbents together to talk about the future of finance.
I'm Nadeem Shaikh. I'm the CEO and founder of Anthemis. We are a leading investment and financial service advisory firm, really thinking about how to reinvent finance for the 21st century.
I'm Yoni Assia. I'm the CEO and founder of eToro, the world's largest social investment network, where 4 million users manage their investments, and everybody can see, follow, and copy the top investors in the network.
Great. I'm Nick Williams. I'm the Consumer Digital Director at Lloyds Banking Group. I look after digital for Halifax, Bank of Scotland, Lloyds Bank, and Scottish Widows.
Lovely, thank you very much for joining me on the sofa. You've just come off stage at the Guildhall in London, I understand. A lively debate about what the 21st century customer looks like and their impact in the banking sector. What is a 21st century customer? What's their typical profile?
Well, my opinion is a 21st century customer is someone who's constantly on mobile, who's social by definition. He's less concerned in privacy and wants to understand how to harness the wisdom of the crowds. And he's a global citizen. So he wants to understand what's happening in China and Germany, in the US, as well as in the UK, as opposed to sort of the old customer who would want only to understand what's happening in his own country.
I think it's changing, right? So my 10-year-old is a customer of eToro's, but the same with my father who's 80, right? So I think the adoption rates are across the board. So there is no such thing as a digital customer anymore. I think every one of us is be digital. It's just the rate of adoption for them is different on the different age groups, different demographics.
Mm-hmm. I think everybody wants an experience that's frictionless, that's smart, that's friendly, that helps them make good financial decisions. And increasingly, I think that means a digital experience, but the form factor, I think, is less important than what it delivers to the end user.
Mm-hmm. And with that in mind, is the end user ready, do we think? I mean, it's great that there's so much attention today at Guildhall and fantastic, investor community here and policymakers, but is the customer ready for this?
I think so. I mean, in the way the guys just described digital customers, I just think about customers, and a lot of our customers want to access digital services, so there's definitely demand out there. I do think it depends on the nature of the need of what customers are looking for in their propensity to want to use digital. So I think there's a huge demand for everyday banking needs to be able to do the things they like to do and keep control of their finances. But I also believe there are things that consumers are still looking for, that personal touch in the service that they get from their banking provider.
And with some of the products that we thought about, they were complex products before, are becoming simpler, right? So trading was a very complex product not so long ago. Now it's become a very simple engagement model. And I think the same is happening across different products. So it's not just the retail customer, it's the SME customer, it's the investor, it's the one guy, the wealth management guy. They're all kind of really rethinking this and how to engage. So that's quite a transition.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also about sort of reaching the tipping point. I think fintech is now reaching its tipping point where customers say, okay, I'm willing to make my investments and manage my finance online, maybe with a new company that I've never heard of before. And it's sort of what happened in e-commerce, I'd say, in the late 90s, and then had a 10-year process of scaling up. I think that's where we are. We're at the tipping point where things are starting to happen for users.
Mm-hmm. And I think fintech is a complement to the existing banking service, yeah? So as customers want these new services and the simplified products and access, then banks can't achieve that on their own, and therefore they need to work with fintech organisations. Legacy infrastructure is quite often cumbersome and not cost effective to try and modify. So working collaboratively, bringing partnerships together with fintech organisations to get to speed to market and new solutions is the way that we need to move forward to be able to meet these customers' needs.
I think that's exactly the direction that I believe the banks need to move in, is to be collaborative with these fintech firms. So often we hear this narrative of disruption and disintermediation about somebody eating somebody else's lunch. But I think there's actually huge opportunities for both innovators and incumbents to benefit from collaboration, from cross-offering.
Yeah.
I think there's a huge, we saw it in eToro, we just raised money from 2 of the largest financial institutions in the world, and we see more and more financial institutions looking generally locally at fintech and saying we want to be a part of that, we want to work together. And I think that's a huge opportunity for us, for the younger companies, because we can leverage the trust of the largest financial institutions and introduce and focus on what we're really good at, which is user experience.
And what are the barriers, do you think, that exist right now? I heard you had a lively debate about regulation. Is that a real challenge right now?
I think regulators are a part of the process. So Project Innovate by the FCA is a great example of the regulators themselves realizing innovation is important for the financial industry to give better, more value for customers and create a more competitive landscape with more transparency of pricing. So I think regulators themselves understand that they need to innovate more or help companies innovate more, which is a bit different than just solely looking at the protection of customers.
I think it's really important that regulators, in order to best serve the needs of customers, both in terms of protecting them and enabling new products and services, avoid a framework that inhibits regulation on the part of large companies. We don't want the dominant model of financial innovation to be small companies who are able to fly under the regulatory radar, experimenting with new things and either succeeding or failing. We want to be able to bring the experience and the capabilities of large incumbents into that process, have them work together on bringing new innovative ideas to market.
I couldn't agree more. I think this is a real opportunity for financial services, like other industries, for re-intermediation. So with the innovation and scale married together, and that's really the challenge for the incoming, as well as the incumbents, as well as the regulators. And that's where I think the secret sauce is for financial services.
Yeah, I think we've all experienced where poor regulation and poor practice leads to bad outcomes. So progressive regulation that thinks about the customer's interests, that gives them the level of protection that they need, but then fosters innovation from fintech and the banks to work collaboratively together, is a regulator that everybody can work with to meet the customer's needs. Yeah,
understood. And lastly, we're here in the centre of London. How important is it that London stays at the forefront of the fintech industry? How do we achieve that?
So I think London is incredibly important to retain its footprint, but I would extend that. So I was in the Manchester Business Growth Hub just 4 weeks ago with Sam in Devonshire, the entrepreneur in residence, and we were helping to launch the digital TV programme within the Growth Hub in Manchester. And I think geographically across the UK, we've got to think of our big cities outside of London. Similarly, I was in Birmingham 2 weeks ago talking to the digital leaders in Birmingham. I've been in the North East and Newcastle talking to those as well. So I think that the heart of fintech being in London on a global basis is a great thing for the UK, but I'd like to see that spread across the other major cities in the UK too.
So I think a big part is bringing in sort of non-UK business to the UK. We're scaling and expanding here in the UK really because we're seeing sort of the focus on fintech of both the government and industry. And I think the huge opportunity is to have companies in the UK actually accessing the global audience. So not look at financial services and say they're limited to the audience in the UK, but suddenly speak about the entirety of Europe, the entire Americas, and the entire East. And that's the real opportunity of the internet finance, is the fact that there is no necessary borders.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I think it's very important. I mean, Guildhall, all the guilds are here, right? So this is exactly the tradition that the UK has an opportunity to maintain. They are the leading centre in financial services, in traditional financial services, and it's important for us to maintain the edge in fintech as well.
So I'm a Canadian based in New York at the moment, and through this project that I've been running with the World Economic Forum, we've had workshops in London, in New York, in San Francisco, in Hong Kong, and in mainland China. And I can tell you from that experience that my opinion is that London is way out ahead of the curve on this. There's a really unique bringing together of human capital, of technological experience, of deep international banking competencies that I think have really helped to accelerate fintech here, and under the shepherding of initiatives like Innovate Finance will hopefully continue to do so.
Fantastic, we'll watch this space. Thank you very much, Jesse, Nadeem, Yoni, Nick. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.